In episode 7, the post-wedding whistledown edition comes out, and just like the Queen had predicted, it sort of blames her for it. But one of the issues that she points out is the fact that neither the Shawarmas or the Bridgertons have made an official statement on the matter. It's leading everybody to make their own conclusions. Anthony and Kate are both having trouble sleeping, and Edwina is still heartbroken. Even the Bridgerton kids can't help but joke around about the situation. This is all behind Anthony's back, though. When he finally does come downstairs, his mother says that we have to act swiftly. Basically, we have to act like nothing's wrong with us. That way we can save face. Her solution? To head to the promenade as one, a family united. Anthony's okay with it, and Eloise says, I'll meet you guys there. I have to go shopping. But when she heads outside, there's a carriage waiting for her. It's the Queen's. After one of the Queen's men caught her going to a printing press, the Queen is now pretty certain that Eloise Bridgerton is Lady Whistledown. So she has a private conversation with Eloise in her carriage. She goes through all the reasons why she's convinced that Eloise is Lady Whistledown, including the fact that last season she had hired Eloise to find the identity of Whistledown and she came up empty. All of the evidence is pretty damning, but it's more so unfortunate because obviously Eloise isn't Whistledown. Eloise pleads this case to the Queen, but she doesn't want to hear it. She tells Eloise, Lady Whistledown could be a real asset to the Queen. But when Eloise says, I would love to, ma'am, but I don't hold that power, the Queen points out what a miserable life she really could hold for Eloise. Especially if the Queen were to reveal that it was Eloise Bridgerton, because people would then seek revenge on Lady Whistledown. She points out that if the Bridgerton situation now seems bad, it would only get worse. She gives Eloise 3 days to consider her offer. And if Eloise doesn't, quote, come to her senses, she's going to squash her like a bug. Eloise is petrified. She knows that she's not Whistledown, but she doesn't have hard evidence. While Eloise was getting interrogated by the Queen, the rest of the Bridgertons headed to the promenade, as did the Sharmas. And both families are having the same issue. They're trying to play it off like nothing's wrong, everything's okay. They simply had an amicable parting of the ways, but everybody that they try to talk to completely ignores them. Lady Featherington takes this opportunity to fire some shots at the Bridgertons, pointing out that she knows how Lady Bridgerton feels after what happened between Colin and Marina last season. The more and more that the Bridgertons and the Sharmas walk around the promenade, the more it becomes clear they don't have many allies. It causes both families to have a meeting post-promenade. The idea that they come up with is hosting a ball. There's no better opportunity for both families to show that there's nothing bad between them than hosting a ball together. It also gives Edwina the chance to find another suitor. Edwina says, well, a ball would work. I mean, Lord Bridgerton and my sister were really good at hiding their feelings for each other. I'm sure they can do it a little bit longer. But then Newton runs in. Both Kate and Anthony tend to the dog, but then they can't stop staring at each other. Edwina sees it and says, was I really that blind? Yeah, girl. Yeah, you were. But this is more of a serious issue. Danbury suggests that both Kate and Anthony stay on opposite sides of the room. And Lady Bridgerton makes mention of the fact that the only people that know about Kate and Anthony are the people in that room. They want to keep it that way. So it wasn't a joke. They really do have to stay away from each other at this ball. When they get home, Lady Bridgerton asks Anthony if the plan is going to be a problem for him, and he says no. But then she points out that they still have an issue. He still has nobody that he's supposed to marry. He asks her, you do realize I'm not the only Bridgerton boy, right? And when she asks, is this your plan to let your brothers marry before you? He freaks out, yelling, is this it? Do you want me to admit I made a mistake? I realize I failed. This plan will work. I'm sure you and Lady Danbury will make certain of it. But if you thought Anthony was freaking out, it doesn't even compare to Eloise. She needs to talk to somebody about the situation, and who else but her best friend, Penelope. When Penelope hears about the Queen and the conversation that she had with Eloise, now Penelope's freaking out too, but for completely different reasons. Eloise's main concern isn't even herself, it's Theo. She doesn't want to get him in trouble. She feels like if the Queen saw her talk to him, then she might think that Theo has something to do with this. When Eloise mentions that she has to go warn him, Penelope says, no, you don't. That's crazy. You should stay far away from him. What you should do is wait for Lady Whistledown to print her next issue. That way the Queen will know that you had nothing to do with it. But now with the information she has, Penelope also has to talk to somebody. And the person she goes and talks to is the modiste. When the modiste hears about it, she starts freaking out like the other two. Nobody's higher than the Queen. And the agreement that she had with Penelope didn't mention anything about the Queen. Penelope simply doesn't know what to do. It's not even like she can turn herself in. She doesn't know that the queen would actually believe her. She might think that it's just a friend trying to help another friend. Penelope then notices the modiste has a bunch of pictures up, and she tells Pen that she was planning on submit them to a revered house of dressmakers in France. Now with this going on, she doesn't know if that's such a good idea. Penelope promises that she will not sully the name of the modiste. That's when the modiste has an idea. She realizes the one thing a lady would never do is sully her own name. All Penelope has to do is write something about Eloise that she would never write about herself. If it's convincing enough, the queen will believe it. But in doing so, Penelope knows that she could be ruining her friend. She doesn't want to do that. The next day, the Bridgertons and the Shawarmas head to an art exhibit as a united front, once again trying to prove to the entire town that there's nothing wrong with them. It still doesn't work. Every room they enter in, the art isn't the main attraction, they are. It's pretty awkward, but as Lady Bridgerton mentions, if we can put the wedding behind us, so can these people. To further prove that there's no bad blood between the two families, Antony takes Lady Mary around the exhibit, and he uses this chance to apologize to Lady Mary, saying, "I just want to assure you, I had no intentions of ever hurting Edwina." Lady Mary tells Antony she can't blame him for all of this. She has to take some blame herself. When her husband died, it should have been her that was handling the books, not Kate. She put Kate in a tough spot. Antony ends his conversation with Lady Mary and runs into Kate. He has to talk to her covertly. Kate really isn't in the mood to talk. She's just gotten done talking to Edwina, and that conversation did not go well. Edwina let her know that everybody is swallowing the story that they decided to call off the wedding amicably, but she still isn't ready to forgive her sister. So when Antony comes over to talk, she's not interested. Antony brings up the fact that they kissed, and she says, "We didn't. You were bound to my sister. There's no world where we could kiss. The fact is, we did a terrible thing. We should be ashamed of what we did." One family who is noticeably absent from the museum is the Featheringtons. That's because Jack Featherington has spent his day at Mondrich's Gentleman's Club, which is empty. But just because it's empty doesn't mean Mondrich is going to kiss Featherington's ass. He still is bitter about what happened with the previous Lord Featherington. And the conversation between Mondrich and Jack gets contentious when Jack all but brings that up. He was looking into his cousin's old files, and he saw some peculiar transactions to Mondrich. Jack's message to Mondrich is clear. "I don't need to tell your secrets if you don't tell mine. Keep your mouth shut about the rubies. If you think my ventures are suspect, don't tell anybody." He then heads home. As Penelope is trying to think of exactly what to write about Eloise in her next edition of Whistledown, she overhears a familiar voice down the hall, and it's Colin. She walks out and is surprised to see Colin in conversation with cousin Jack. Turns out that Colin is thinking about investing in Jack's ruby mines. Colin turns his attention from Jack to Penelope, and then when Lady Featherington comes downstairs and says, "Oh, I didn't know we had a caller," Colin makes it very clear that he's not there to court Penelope, and he leaves. But when Lady Featherington finds out exactly what Colin was up to, she goes and has a conversation with Jack about the situation because she told Jack to stay away from the Bridgertons. Jack's excuse is that Colin is so eager to invest, he had to basically take the meeting. They then both get the invitation to the Bridgerton ball. And down the street, that is exactly what the Bridgertons are focused on, at least Lady Bridgerton. Most of the kids don't want to go through this farce. Eloise, on the other hand, is just hyper-focused on the latest edition of Whistledown. She's not had a good day. She had that awful meeting with the Queen. She talked to Penelope and defied her suggestion not to go talk to Theo. She did so to warn him, but it backfired. Theo didn't want to talk to her and basically dumped her. So when Penelope shows up later that day to the Bridgerton household, Eloise is relieved because she has to talk to her. She's decided that she is going to accept the Queen's offer and admit that she is Whistledown. She'll just put out a counterfeit paper and own it. When Penelope brings up Theo's name, Eloise says, "I don't want to speak his name ever again. I'm not doing this for him. I'm doing it for my family." Penelope asks her what's going to happen when the real Lady Whistledown decides to publish. But Eloise is done caring about the real Lady Whistledown. She's got 2 days to consider the Queen's offer. In Eloise's mind, this will give her more time to find the real writer. She then thanks Penelope for being a loyal friend and heads to get ready for that night's ball. But Penelope is in knots because the latest edition of Whistledown is coming out. Eloise just doesn't know what's in it. That night, the Bridgertons, the Sharmas, Lady Danbury, they all congregate in the Bridgerton household, and they are the only ones there. Antony's not going to waste that night. They've got a band after all. He's going to dance. And everybody has fun dancing with each other. For one song, it's like a wedding was never called off. But then they find out exactly why nobody showed up to their ball. because the latest edition of Whistledown has come out, and it does not speak well of Eloise. The drama that Whistledown wrote about was that Eloise was going to the bad neighborhoods, unchaperoned, and talking to radicals. Eloise is sick to her stomach. So is Penelope, because she knows what she did. Her mother is thrilled. She no longer cares about the Bridgerton social standing. She instructs Jack to seal the agreement with Colin. So the Bridgerton ball is a bust. And even after having fun dancing with each other, Edwina is still not ready to forgive Kate. Kate heads out to the garden, but she's quickly joined by Anthony. I'm going to save you a lot of the drama here. They start fighting. They get closer. They don't kiss this time, though. They bang each other's brains out. Something about that garden gets people crazy horny. They even fall asleep in it, which is dangerous because anyone could find them. But when Anthony wakes up, he's alone. That's because Kate ran back home. But she has Anthony's lap hog right on her mind. That thrust game was on point. And after sullying her, Anthony knows what he has to do. He has to propose. He grabs his mother's ring, heads on over to Lady Danbury's house, waits for Kate, but he's told that she isn't there. And he figures that she must be off riding. It doesn't take him long to quickly find her. He chases after her, but it's poor riding conditions. It's raining out. And when Kate goes to jump over some logs, the horse doesn't. The horse bucks up and throws Kate off, where Kate hits her head and is knocked out unconscious. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comments section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.